Oh, hi. I guess you spotted me in my house clothes. Yeah. Well, what do you think about the new intro? I took a picture of my Power Mac GeForce motherboard and put some neon lighting effects on it. I'm also planning on commissioning a new intro for Racer Cinema Productions. You always gotta update your stuff. Anyways, let me do some. Let me change into something and do some errands first. I gotta do some errands before I talk about the first ever Gran Turismo game. See you later. Well, I'm back. Just had to do some errands. Anyways, I'm going to give you a rundown of what's going to happen in each and every video in the Gran Turismo-A-Thon series. Each video is going to have 4 segments each. Count them. 4 segments each. The first segment is a brief overview of which game I'm going to be talking about. The second, I'm going to be talking about the history. The third is I'm going to be showing you some gameplay. And in one case, I'm going to be showing you the all of the races that the game has to offer. And the fourth and final segment is that I'm going to show you my final thoughts on the game. Alright, so Gran Turismo, the first Gran Turismo game in the series to be exact, was released in late 1997 in Japan and later released in 1998 in the rest of the world. This is the game that started it all. And, of course, without it, you wouldn't have games like Forza or even Project Cars as we know them today. This brought along a whole new genre of sim racing games known as Simcade. Well, I don't think it's actually that Gran Turismo actually invented the Simcade genre. I think there might be games released before it that preceded it, but Gran Turismo had a huge impact on the gaming industry as a whole. And introduced the world of racing games to concepts like in-game money and, of course, upgrading your car for each and every race that you enter. Let's talk about some history about Gran Turismo, shall we? In the second half of 1992, development of Gran Turismo began, according to an interview by Kaz Yamauchi himself. Yeah, I'm not so good at pronouncing Japanese names, so don't judge me. Back then, there were only a small number of people assisting Kaz on developing Gran Turismo. Well, that's only because Polyphony Digital, known as Police Entertainment back in the day, was only a small development studio, so expect that. The original Gran Turismo game took 5 years to develop. Yeah, 5 years. Well, that might not seem like much nowadays, but back then, it felt like an eternity. And rightfully so, as Mr. Kaz Yamauchi himself thought winter was coming because it felt cold one day. Finally, in December 23rd, 1997, Gran Turismo would be released in Japan. This game is known for having advanced AI, well, advanced at the time. And it also introduced the world of gaming to the concept of a simulation-based racing game where you can earn more money to either buy other cars or upgrade your existing cars. Kaz was impressed of how advanced the AI in the original Gran Turismo game was, but he still wasn't satisfied with the game's development. Gran Turismo would become a mega hit in Japan, and it would later be released in 1998 in North America and Europe. And, no surprise, it also became a huge hit in the Western Hemisphere. Granted, the concept of buying cars and upgrades with money is nothing new in racing games, but Gran Turismo did it in such a way that set it apart and made it feel unique. In fact, various other racing games like Sega GT and Forza would try to emulate Gran Turismo's style and take some inspiration from it. Just goes to show how popular Gran Turismo became. And you want to know what the best part is? I actually do have an original Japanese copy of Gran Turismo. This is not a faker. This is a real, genuine, original Japanese copy of Gran Turismo. And I even have the manuals that come with it. Granted, it's all in Japanese and I can't actually read it. Yeah. And also, in my opinion, has the better looking cover over the overseas versions, like the North American and European versions. Yeah, there it is. Released, it's all the way up there. It's released in 1997, late 1997. It also has some different songs from the original. The overseas versions, because the overseas versions had licensed music, and that was a big deal in video games back then. Sure, you have like licensed music all over the place in video games nowadays, but back then, hearing your favorite music in a video game was kind of a big deal. And later Gran Turismo games in the series continued this tradition of putting in some of the best music that Gran Turismo has to offer, the best licensed music that Gran Turismo has to offer, to be exact. Anyways, let's come along and play, well, that was just my iPad pinging, sorry about that. Let's come along and play the first ever Gran Turismo. Oh, and I probably won't be able to, probably not going to be able to play this original Japanese game, but I just have it there for display purposes, and I thought that I would show it to you as a prop. But let's move along. Yeah, I couldn't show you the intro itself on YouTube due to copyright laws, but it is a great intro though. I'll provide a link to the intro of Gran Turismo in the description. Before we talk about the game, it is worth noting that if you don't select one of the options on the title screen, the game will show a demo pretty quickly. Not as quick as Metal Gear on the NES, which shows demo gameplay before 2 seconds of idling. But still pretty quick at 35 seconds. And yes, I actually timed it. What Gran Turismo is trying to say is, well, you better act fast. Anyways, there are several game modes that Gran Turismo has to offer, so let's take a look at the main focus of the game first. Simulation mode. Again, the music is muted, as the game itself does have a licensed soundtrack during gameplay, and I don't want to get demonetized for it. Man, the world just runs on greedy money, doesn't it? Anyways, let's pick a car to start out with. So, we're going into the Toyota dealership, and we're going to look through to see which one is the best to start with. Let's pick the Supra GT Turbo, because it's always the best car to start out with in Gran Turismo, aside from the Dodge concept car, of course. Well, you don't always have to start out with the Supra if you don't want to, because there are other options. Say, for example, I might not want to get a Toyota Supra to start out with. I might want to get a car that has better handling and is easier to control. Like, for example, the Honda Civic. Yeah, there it is. Or, you can go above and beyond and try to get all gold on the B license test and get yourself a Dodge concept car to start out with, and you're good to go. Once you chose your starting car of choice, you are now ready to race. Alright, here are the events. First up is the GT League. These are the 4 official racing championships in the game. Next up is Special Event. These are basically racing championships that you enter in between the official ones. Next up is Spot Race, where it gives you a selection of courses to race on, and you can race on them anywhere, anytime. And they're also great for improving your skills in the game. That's important for any racing game, as you gotta get used to the controls. Always important to get the hang of the controls in a racing game in order to get better at it. As you can see, I picked High Speed Ring, and I'll give you a rundown of the basics. Qualifying begins before every race starts. And of course, this will determine how well you are positioned in a race. Qualifying is basically self-explanatory. Just like any other racing game, including the NASCAR games, you're always alone on the track, and it's not all about trying to win the race, but trying to get the fastest time. Your time on the track will determine how well you are placed in the race, and this is important as you always have to be placed pretty high in order to do well. Well, did I really have to explain what qualifying is? It basically speaks for itself. Qualifying needs no introduction. It's simple racing principles. But here's what happens when you do get the pole position. If you manage to get first in qualifying, like I did in the first race in the Sunday Cup, then you get bonus credits. And it's actually a great prize, considering that you could use some extra credits alongside your prize money to buy more stuff. The more credits you earn, the more you can spend it on upgrades for your car, or an entirely new car that's faster than your previous car. You get the idea. So, here we go into the game, and it still holds up after all these years. One of the most important things to get right in a racing game are the controls. And Gran Turismo definitely doesn't disappoint in the controls department. The controls in Gran Turismo are great. Great driving controls. And that's the key word, control. you always want to feel in control of your car. Yeah. While Gran Turismo has great controls, they are by no means perfect. But still, Gran Turismo has great driving controls, and it sets the example of how racing games should control. Plus, every car in Gran Turismo handles differently. Like for example, the lighter cars, they're not that fast, but what they lack in speed makes up for it in great handling and sometimes good acceleration. Whereas the heavier cars, they're faster, but they don't handle as well. And this is actually a good way to balance the game. And of course, the special racing models and the racing cars in Gran Turismo are always going to handle the best. Just saying. And there you go, you just learned the basics of Gran Turismo. Alright, so you learned all about the secrets of Gran Turismo and some of the basic controls. Now, let's talk about some of the other features that this game has to offer. Every racing championship in the game has their own specific license requirement, and here's how you get them, with the license tests. There's the B license, and there's the A and IA licenses. Whoops, trigger finger. Passing these license tests are important because you need to enter a races with them. And like I've said, each racing championship has their own license requirement. Let's pick the B license because that's always the first license that you always start out with in any Gran Turismo game. And let's start out with the good old starting and stopping license test. Interestingly, this game would also have 3 license categories compared to other Gran Turismo games. Alright, this is where it all started. The first license test. The license test where all you have to do is accelerate and brake in a specific spot. Now, these license tests have been made into memes several times. It's safe to say that these kind of license tests don't need any introduction, and they are always going to be very easy. And not to mention, these license tests always have you in a really slow car. Yeah, it's no wonder why BK4 makes fun of them all the time. Like before, we're gonna choose manual. Alright, let's prepare for slow, tedious braking. Oh, and one more thing I forgot to mention. The Mazda Demio and Mazda Demio GLX are 2 of the slowest cars in the original Gran Turismo game, and they are almost completely useless. Well, I say almost because you can tune them to make them go faster and they'll become pretty zippy cars. But still, you'll be far behind in them in any race. Well, we passed. Oh, dang it. I got bronze. Let's try to get gold. I'll cut to when I get the gold license in the first license test. And let's see if I can attempt to get all gold licenses to get the Dodge concept car. Alright, after several attempts, we finally got, drumroll please, the gold license! Let's see if we can try to get all gold licenses though. This is probably going to be hard. So, I'll check back with you. Well, I didn't try to get all of the gold licenses. The license tests in the original Gran Turismo game are actually pretty hard. Yeah, I was able to get all gold licenses on the B and A license tests in Gran Turismo 2, and was able to get all gold licenses in Gran Turismo 3, and some gold licenses in Gran Turismo 4, but these ones are actually pretty hard, and I'll let you know when I eventually get all gold licenses, and I'll post it. So, yeah, I'll keep you updated. I'm actually tempted to get that prize car, the Dodge Copperhead, also known as the Dodge Concept Car. I actually do want it, so keep you updated. Alright, now that we've got the B license, we can now enter the Sunday Cup. And yes, I believe this is the only time in the Gran Turismo series of games where you are required to get a license in order to enter the Sunday Cup, whereas in every other Gran Turismo game, you don't need to get a specific license to enter the Sunday Cup. Correct me if I'm wrong, because not exactly sure. So feel free to prove me wrong in the comments section. We qualified first, and we are winning the race. It just goes to show how great the Toyota Supra is as a starter car. It's pretty fast, and it'll win the race. Always win the race. However, it doesn't handle well compared to the Civic. Yeah, boy! We won our first race. And here's what happens every time you win a race. Whenever you win a race in Gran Turismo, you always get more money. And like I've said before, you can either use that money to upgrade your existing car or buy a faster car. So yeah, we won the first race in the Sunday Cup, and we now have 10,500 credits. If you manage to win all of the races in the championship, you get even more credits, plus a spinning animation of a trophy, and a new car for your garage. For some reason, the European version says, get the new machine. I suppose they didn't have time to proofread it before releasing it to Europe. So, we got our first prize car. You can either use it in the game, or if you don't want it in your garage, you can sell it for extra credits. Here's our first prize car. The third slowest car in the game, and the slowest tuned car in the game, the Mazda Demio A-Spec. I don't think we need this car in any race, so let's sell it for extra credits, and here's how you sell cars in the game. First, you go up to the used car section in the dealership. Then you select Sell. Then you choose whether if you want to sell your car or not. Well, we sold the Demio A-Spec. If you want to sell your car for extra credits, press yes. If you don't want to sell it, press no. This is actually a more tedious process than later Gran Turismo games, because later Gran Turismo games has the sell car button, and you can sell your car without having to go to the dealership. However, if the dealership does not have a used car section, like the Dodge dealership, for example, then you have to select Sell Car. Yeah, I would get this car later in the game. Don't worry, I'm not actually gonna sell this car because I am actually gonna use it later in the game. And besides, it won't be crazy to sell a friggin' Dodge Viper. Alright, so now we got more credits, and we could use those credits to tune up our car. If you want to be able to win the harder races in the game, then you have to tune up your car. It's important. So, all you need to do to tune up your car is to go to the tuning shop. In the tuning shop, you have different parts to choose from. For example, I'm gonna buy myself a turbo kit so I can have my Supra become competitive in the FR challenge. You actually have 4 different stages of turbo kits. Stage 1 is the cheapest, but it doesn't give you very much power. Stage 2 is more expensive than Stage 1 and gives you slightly more power. Stage 3 is the mid-range offering, but on some cars it's the most powerful turbo kit you can get. Stage 4 is by far the most expensive, but gives you the most power and makes your car really fast. Actually, scratch that. I'm not gonna get the Stage 2 turbo kit. It's too much power for this race. I'm gonna get the Stage 1 turbo kit. On some turbo-tuned cars, you can also get an intercooler for it. You can either get sports or racing. Since the intercoolers are really cheap, I'm gonna get racing. And if that's not enough power, you can always get engine upgrades as well. You can get an increase in engine displacement for cars that have that upgrade. But for every other car, you can get a computer, or as I like to call it, a tuned ECU. Yay, my Supra now has the same amount of horsepower as a Chevy Trailblazer. Next up is port polishing. Port polishing is more expensive than the ECU upgrade, but it gives you a little bit more power. And there's also engine balancing, which is the most expensive of the trio of engine upgrades. Just in case if you think your car is still not fast enough, even if you give it more horsepower, you can always lighten it with the weight reduction upgrades. I just bought stage 1 of the weight reduction upgrades, and now I'm going to buy the second stage. Reducing the weight of your car is important, as it will make it handle better. Weight reduction, bro! Speaking of handling upgrades, we're going to go into the suspension upgrades next. Well, you have your typical suspension upgrades, but you also have stabilizer upgrades. These basically make your car more stable. Interestingly, the stabilizer upgrades would not be carried over into Gran Turismo 2, and I think that, again, correct me if I'm wrong, that this might be the only game in the series to have the stabilizer upgrades. Although, haven't played Gran Turismo 5 and Gran Turismo 6 in a long time. Since they're cheap, let's buy them both! Well, we just made our car more stable. Next up are the tranny upgrades, and these are pretty commonplace in most Gran Turismo games. First up is the gearbox upgrade, and there are 3 options: sports, semi-racing, and racing support. Racing support is the most expensive option, but it's the best option, because it will allow you to adjust the gear ratios of your car for it to have a higher top speed or better acceleration. You can also get clutch, flywheel, and drive shaft upgrades. Only certain cars will have drive shaft upgrades though. Yeah, I don't really need to explain to you what a clutch does. But most of these upgrades will improve the gearing on your car and will make them accelerate better. You can also get brake upgrades. Sport brakes will help your car brake better, and the brake balance controller will help adjust how well your car brakes. Yeah, you get the idea. You can also get the racing modification in order to turn your ordinary street car into a racing machine. This is the most expensive upgrade in the tuning parts section, but is well worth it. And you can also choose the color of your race car. This feature would be carried over to Gran Turismo-A-Thon, but sadly it won't be carried over to any other Gran Turismo game following it. It's a shame since I actually do love the racing modification feature. It has returned again in Gran Turismo 5, but only a small number of cars in the game use a racing modification, and they are all premium cars. Back in the day, this was a great way to customize any car. Bear in mind, this was before the livery editor feature came into existence. So if you want your cool car to stand out, this was the way to do it. Anyways, let's talk about another feature in the game. So I've talked to you about upgrading and tuning your car. Now let's talk about the car dealerships. There are a total of 10 different manufacturers in the game. There's Nissan, there's Honda and Acura, there's Mitsubishi, and straight from Hill Valley there's Toyota. There's my favorite Japanese car company, Mazda. There's Subaru. There's Chevy. There's Dodge. There's the company that makes some of the cars for James Bond, Aston Martin. And last but not least, there's TVR. As I've said before, there's a total of 10 different manufacturers in the game, and there's only 2 American car companies in the game, and 2 European car companies in the game that are both British. Keep in mind, Police Entertainment only had a limited budget to work with, so don't expect to see Ford here. Each car dealership has both a new and used car section, with the exceptions being Chevrolet, Dodge, Aston Martin, and TVR. And certain races have specific requirements depending on drivetrain, or if the racing championship itself doesn't want you to race inside a racing modified car or special racing car. Like for example, I'm gonna buy this Honda Civic SI hatchback for the FF challenge. You can also look at the spec sheet to see if the car is good enough for the event. You can also look at the description for the car you want to buy. It explains about the details of the car plus some history about it. Some cars have a more than one page of description. And there you go, now you know everything about the Honda Civic. But it's a car that needs no introduction though. And we've bought the Honda Civic for the FF challenge. In case you're wondering, no, you cannot use the Toyota Supra in the FF challenge. That car is FR. And the FF challenge requires you to have an FF car, a car with a front-wheel drive drivetrain, to be exact. And most dealerships, with the exception being Dodge, Chevrolet, TVR, and Aston Martin, also have a special model section. So for example, we're going to take a look at the Nismo GTR LM. This car would make a return appearance in Gran Turismo-A-Thon, but it would be reduced to nothing more than a racing modification for the Nismo GTR LM road car. And let's take a look at the Honda NSX LMGT2, or as it's known in the game, the NSXR LMGT2. You can buy these cars if you have enough money to purchase them. These cars are the most expensive cars sold in the dealerships, but they are also the fastest cars sold in the dealerships since they are racing models. I also forgot to mention that the Dodge Copperhead, also known as the Dodge concept car in the game, is the only car in the dealership that is not for sale, since you have to win it. And it's also the only car in the game that doesn't have a racing modification. Although, interestingly enough, it was supposed to have a racing modification, as evident in the beta builds of Gran Turismo-A-Thon, but it was cut. The reason why it was cut is because it had the Copperhead name on it, and they couldn't use the name Copperhead due to trademark issues. I wonder if it has something to do with Steve Earle's song called Copperhead Road. Probably. And I also have to point out something interesting about the song Copperhead Road. The song mentions whiskey being transported in a black Dodge. Although it's a really old Dodge, one from the late 40s or the early 1950s. And, just by some coincidence, there is a concept car that Dodge made that is called the Copperhead. If that's not mind-blowing, then I don't know what is. Yeah, I just had to mention that. I'm sorry if I got a bit off topic there. Anyways, I gave you a basic overview of the car dealerships in the game, so let's talk about the next feature in this game. While you can't add different rims to your car in the original Gran Turismo game, you can still give them a wash. Let's talk about the car wash feature in this game. If your car has been used pretty heavily in the race, or used in one race, you can give them a wash to make them look good and shiny. So, let's give our good old Supra a wash! Dang, that Supra looks good! Either way, it looks a lot sexier than Mikko Kubota from that show that I don't give a dang's rats about glitch techs. However, here's the kicker. You can't wash cars that haven't been used or have already been washed. So yeah, keep that in mind when you plan on giving your car a wash. Yeah, what difference this makes to your car are only cosmetic details. I don't think a car wash will affect the car's performance whatsoever, but it still makes them look good. Last but not least is the home screen. You can look at your cars in the garage, trade your cars with another memory card, or if your friend happens to have another memory card that he wants to trade cars with you. And you can also load and save your game. Yeah, I don't really need to explain to you about this one, since a lot of games have a save feature. So yeah, let's now talk about the races. Each race is split into 4 different categories. First up is the GT League. Now, these are the 4 main races in the game. Each race has their own specific license requirements, as mentioned previously. There's the Sunday Cup. There's the Clubman Cup. There's the GT Cup. And the final championship in the game, the GT World Championship, or, as it's known in this game, the GT World Cup. Not to be confused with World Cup of Soccer, the FIFA World Cup. Besides the 4 main championships in the game, you also have a bunch of special events to race in. There's the FF Challenge, the FR Challenge, and the 4-wheel drive challenge. And there's also a championship for lightweight cars, but no MR challenge. Next up, there's the US versus Japan championship. Yeah, I all know what you're thinking. US versus Japan in World War II, so please feel free to insert your own US versus Japan in World War II joke here. Just don't try to whitewash history. But it's still all news, though. It's kind of like still getting offended at Donald Trump in the futuristic year of 2100. And then there's the UK versus Japan Championship. I'm not going there. And then there's the US versus UK Championship. Yeah, Declaration of Independence, anyone? I know what kind of song to play during that racing championship. Iced Earth's Declaration Day. Well, you think that's it? Nope. There's still more to come. There's a next page. Next up is the Ride Like the Wind Mega Speed Challenge. The Grand Valley 300 kilometers endurance race, which of course would be one of the only free endurance races in the game. And we'll get to how those work in a moment. The 30 lap special stage Route 11 All Night Endurance Race, also known as All Night 1. The Normal Car Cup. Now, the whole idea of the Normal Car Cup is to enter the race with an unmodified car. That means you cannot modify your car whatsoever in order to enter the Normal Car Cup, hence the name. Interestingly, this race won't be carried over into Gran Turismo 2, but in Gran Turismo 3, a racing championship with similar restrictions called the Felicity Digital Championship or Felicity Digital Cup would make an appearance. The Tuned Car Cup, which is the same as the normal Car Cup, except you are now allowed to enter modified cars in the championship. Two similarly named race events would make an appearance in Gran Turismo 2 called the NA Tuning Cup and the Turbo Tuning Cup, but these events would have specific regulations tailored to the aspiration of your car. And unlike the Tuned Car Cup in Gran Turismo, the original Gran Turismo game to be exact, you are actually allowed to enter the race with race-modified cars, and racing cars too. And another racing championship in Gran Turismo 4 called the Tuning Car Grand Prix would make an appearance, and it would seem like a spiritual successor to the Tuned Car Cup in Gran Turismo 1, except for the fact that there's no restrictions on car type. And just like the NA Tuning and Turbo Tuning Cups in Gran Turismo 2, you can also enter the championship with race cars. So the present-day equivalent to this championship, also known as the hard-tuned car speed contest, is the Premium Sports Lounge from Gran Turismo 4. It also doesn't have any regulations on tuning your car, but it also has similar regulations in that you can't enter the race with any racing cars. However, unlike the hard-tuned car speed contest, there are actually specific regulations on which cars to use in the Premium Sports Lounge. And last but not least is the special stage Route 11 All Night Endurance Race in reverse, or also known as All Night 2. This endurance race would have similar regulations to the hard-tuned car speed contest in that you cannot enter any race-modified cars or special racing cars in the race. If you've managed to win all of the racing championships in the game, including the 4 main GT League racing championships and all 3 endurance races, then you've unlocked a new mode in the game, which we'll get to in a moment. Next up is Time Trial, where you race against the clock and try to beat the records. Yeah, it's pretty much self-explanatory here. And last but not least is the Spot Race, which, as I've previously mentioned, are races where you don't need any specific car to enter and it doesn't have any regulations, and you don't need any license to enter any of the 5 races here. So yeah, great for a first event, or if you just want to race in a single race for fun, or if you just want to keep practicing the controls of the game. So yeah, that's a basic rundown of the racing events in Gran Turismo. Oh, and also worth mentioning that this, I think, is the only Gran Turismo game in the series where it has a multiplayer mode in the career mode itself. This is the memory card battle, and the idea here is that if your friend has another memory card with him with a save data of Gran Turismo, or if you have another memory card in your PlayStation with a Gran Turismo save data, then you're all set and you're ready to play against another friend with a different car from another save file. So yeah, interesting little feature here, except in later Gran Turismo games you can actually load the your career mode cars into the arcade mode itself. And it's also more convenient that way because it allows players to race around in their career mode cars in arcade mode, and it gives them more options as well. Alright, we've pretty much explained all of the features in the career mode in Gran Turismo. Oh wait, I'm gonna mention machine test. Just in case you want to test out how fast your cars are, you can always go down to machine test and choose either 400 or 800 meter drag tests. Or you can go all out and test the top speed of your car in the max speed test. Enough said, let's move along. I'm going to give you a basic rundown of how endurance races work in this game, and any Gran Turismo game. They are like normal races, except they have longer lap counts, and they also have tire wear. Whoops, I almost lost it there. I might as well mention tire upgrades now because I forgot to mention them in the upgrades part. You can either upgrade your car to have semi-racing or racing tires. Semi-racing tires are cheaper, but they don't handle as well. And they are not as grippy. Racing tires are more expensive, but they have more grip and they handle better. So, racing tires are the best option. Oh, and there are also different tire compounds with both semi-racing and racing tires. Soft compounds provide better handling and better grip and will make your car faster, but they also wear out faster. Hard compounds don't make your car as fast and they don't provide as much grip, but they last longer and are most definitely recommended for endurance races. So yeah, if you want to win any race, then I strongly recommend you to get hard tires. Oh, and I also have to mention that you earn the most amount of money in endurance races, like $100,000 or even close to $500,000. Well, we made it this far, and we jumped ahead to the final race in the game. GT World Championship, Special Stage, Route 11. Try saying that 3 times fast. Since I've got the pole, I've let the opponents give me a head start in order to make things more interesting. But I've also picked the Dodge Concept car for this championship. And it's purple. Whoops! Yeah, so the same car that beat the Vector M12 Elm Edition in the Trial Mountain 30 Laps Endurance race is going to win the final race in the GT World Championship in the original Gran Turismo game. This is gonna get exciting. Since this is a long race, let's jump ahead. Yes! We're currently in first place, and we are almost done with the race. Phew, I almost lost it there. Alright, here we go. Here comes the final stretch! Yeah! I won the final race in the GT World Championship, and I beat the game a second time. Yes, I have beaten this game before, back in 2013 or 2014, I think. It's back when I was younger. Let's take a look at the extra mode that is unlocked after you win all of the racing championships. After you've won them all, you get one extra mode in the special events section. GT Hi-Fi. It's similar to the spot race mode, except you can only race on night tracks. However, I've never understood the namesake of this mode. GT Hi-Fi? Well, Hi-Fi means high fidelity, like a better sound. You see, hi-fi stereos and even most notably VHS hi-fi. VHS hi-fi has better sound than normal VHS, and it's CD quality, but you'll still see fuzzy lines though. I don't know. The namesake of this event makes it sound like a Gran Turismo themed stereo or some kind of VCR that's shaped like one of the cars in Gran Turismo and has the GT logo on it, and it's a VHS Hi-Fi VCR. Anyways, you can choose to race on Clubman Stage Route 5, Special Stage Route 5, and Special Stage Route 11. And in case you're wondering, no, you do not get a prize car after completing the GT World Championship the first time. At least I think it's the only racing championship where you don't get a prize car. Anyways, we've pretty much slayed the GT mode. So, let's save our game and move on to arcade mode! Alright, here we go into arcade mode. For this mode you have single race, time trial, the multiplayer mode known as two-player battle, the bonus items, which are basically extras that you unlock if you complete a race on a certain course and on a certain difficulty. And you can also load and save your game within the arcade mode just in case you don't feel like saving it in the Gran Turismo mode. Let's do a quick race. You can choose between 3 difficulties: easy, normal, and difficult. Let's pick normal since I am pretty good at this game. Once you've picked your car of choice and the difficulty setting, you're all set. Also, notice how I've picked the Mazda Miata 1.8 RS 98, because I want to explain something about this car, okay? Are you listening? Well, guess what? This car you can only drive on arcade mode. Yeah, while you do have some of the cars carried over from Gran Turismo mode appear in this in the arcade mode itself, you also have 2 exclusive cars in arcade mode, and these cars also don't make an appearance in the Japanese version of Gran Turismo. Yeah, just had to point that out. In the overseas versions of Gran Turismo, arcade mode has different handling from Gran Turismo mode. Handles a lot like an arcade racer, but I believe in the Japanese version has the same handling from Gran Turismo mode. I believe Matt J155 has mentioned that before in one of his videos. Yeah, you get the idea, and had to make a jump cut, because I didn't want this video to be too long. Spoiler alert, I win the race. Anyways, let's move on to another feature that we have to talk about. Replay theater. This is basically a feature where you can view your saved replays. And I don't really have any saved at the moment. But you can also view demo replays just in case if you don't have any replays saved. I picked the one with the Dodge Viper in it, because I really do love that car. Yeah, not much to say here except for the fact that the replay feature in this game and all Gran Turismo games is actually pretty darn good. Yeah, don't you miss that blue Dodge Viper? I know I do. I miss it so much in Gran Turismo. As you can see, this is the second arcade mode only car in the game. The 67 Chevy Corvette 427 Stingray C2. And I picked that car because I want it to look similar to the Corvette that sadly got crushed in the movie Brave Little Toaster. Yeah, you all remember the song Worthless, right? Just checking. And because this car is included in the original Gran Turismo game, and again doesn't appear in the original Japanese version of the game, it makes it the oldest car in the game. Gran Turismo 1 still holds up to this very day. It has good racing controls and it is an overall good racing game to get. I highly recommend you to get it if you want to become a new Gran Turismo fan. It's a great start. Or if you just want good racing games on the PlayStation 1 in general. So there you go. And it most definitely gets the Otaku Bandito's gold seal of approval. There you have it. Gran Turismo, the first ever original Gran Turismo game, still holds up to this very day. It was a game that had the very best of simulation racing games at the time. Considering that that simulation and simcade racing games were very rare at the time. I mean, what else was there at the time? Need for Speed, Test Drive, NASCAR, Kart World Series on the PS1. And as crazy as it seems, I actually do have that game over there. If you can see it. Yeah. Gran Turismo was a game that was ahead of its time and brought along a lot of imitators, like a whole slew of imitators, like Driving Emotion Type S, which wasn't very good, Sega GT 2002, which was actually a great game and an improvement over the original Sega GT game in my opinion. Seriously, I can't even control some of the cars in that game. They're so hard to control that it's almost unplayable. I might review that game at a later date. And, like I said, Gran Turismo even inspired the Forza series of games. So, Gran Turismo, like it or you may or may not like it, but you can't argue about its impact that it had on the gaming industry as a whole, not just the racing game industry. It brought along, like I said, it brought along new concepts to racing games, and of course, brought along imitators. So, I'm gonna give the, excuse me for a moment, sorry about that. Yeah, I'm gonna give Gran Turismo a rating of an 8 out of 10. Well, I would have given it a 9 out of 10, but here's why I'm holding back from giving it a 9 out of 10. There's not that much cars to select in the game. Well, this is the first game in this series, and they haven't had that much money to spend on licensing car manufacturers. So I can give it the benefit of the doubt. And of course, there's not much variety in car noises. Luckily, later Gran Turismo games had would have a bigger variety in car noises. So yeah. But still, a lot of these things are excusable since it's the first in the series, and later games would improve upon it. And of course, we're actually going to look at Gran Turismo 2 next. And that game would improve upon the original Gran Turismo in every way. More cars, more everything, and better, more fluid driving controls. Yeah. So, Gran Turismo 2 is going to be coming up next. I'll see you then. Just make sure, your engine doesn't conk out in the snow. Yeah, that's a reference from a show that Nickelodeon made. Yep, buckle up your seatbelts and I'll see you later. If you want to see more, check out the Racer Cinema Productions YouTube channel for more great videos. And head on over to the Racer Cinema Productions Patreon page if you want to support my videos. Videos are just the icing of the Racer Cinema Productions cake. Check out the Racer Cinema Productions website for other cool stuff.